Video game DLC, more formally known as downloadable content, can refer to many things. From the more old-school expansion packs for World of Warcraft, map packs for Call of Duty, or extra areas that raise an RPG's level cap, there are always distinctions to be made. With digital distribution being the norm, as well as early access and battle passes showing up everywhere, it's important to find the fine line in this discussion. Do the Dragonlore skin in Counter-Strike Global Offensive and Shark cards in Grand Theft Auto 5 count as DLC? Personally, I'd say no. Due to being purely cosmetic, skins are somewhat separate from the main game's standing. This also goes for in-game currency, as they generally just speed up the process. DLC is a tricky beast. Even more so because we have skins and in-game currency mentioned in our list, but hopefully I'll establish some fair reasoning as we go. Regardless, whether it's Horse Armour, a mobile game, weird skins or 600 different expansion packs, accounting for value in size and content, let's look at the most overpriced DLC ever. I'm Kirsten from WhatCulture Gaming, and these are 10 most overpriced DLC packs in gaming history. Number 10, save slots for $10, Metal Gear Survive. A save slot is not something you'd think would have to be purchased in a video game. However, the always impressive Konami managed to make it happen. There's no exaggeration here, no hyperbole or hostility. The simple truth is that within Metal Gear Survive, the bastardization of Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid, in order to utilise more than one save, you must do so using in-game credits. 1,000 credits exactly, which you can buy 1,150 of for $10. There's nothing more to it than that. Metal Gear Solid 5 had its flaws. Huge chunks of it were cut, including almost the entire ending, as a direct result of time constraints and meddling from Konami. Many speculate that the development of 5, The Phantom Pain, is the direct motivator behind Hideo Kojima and Konami's falling out. Does that bad blood really justify such scummy tactics though? Skins and horse armour aside, no developer has ever stooped as low as $10 for a save slot. Thankfully, Kojima is now off doing bigger and better things with his newfound studio funded by Sony. All the while, Konami are wringing the last few drops of profit that they can off someone else's beloved creation. Number 9, a $50,000 chisel. Peter Molyneux is a man of infamy in the games industry, among the likes of Todd Howard and Sean Murray, though running his mouth full of hype about his upcoming games apparently isn't the worst thing he's capable of. Curiosity was a mobile game released in 2012 as a social experiment. It involved players chipping away at layers of a cube that contained a reward for the user who broke away the final layer. This would have been fine and dandy if the only issue was that no one ever received a reward, but there was another problem. Molyneux's studio at the time, 22 Cans, implemented an item in the game known as a chisel, costing $50,000. This chisel worked over 100 times better than a normal click and would allow users to make much better headway over the competition, finally leading to that sweet, sweet prize. Ultimately, it's unknown if anyone actually bought this chisel, and it's also unknown if the intention of this game was to get one single person to buy said chisel, helping the studio turn a profit. What is known though is that the winner, Brian Henderson, received no reward due to several departures from the company, the ones responsible for communication. That rascal Molyneux strikes again. Number 8, $6,000 song packs, ROCKSMITH. It's not always about save slots and chisels. Sometimes you have to evaluate DLC as a whole. Perhaps stacking DLC as a complete set is unfair of an entry, but we're looking at these entries in regard to value. In light of that, let me tell you there is no amount of DLC that should be valued at over $6,000. I know what you're going to say, there must be loads of songs there, you're not supposed to buy all of them. And maybe that's a fair response, though maybe it's an absolute insanity to release an amount of DLC that's worth 600 times more than the current price of the game. I don't care if you've got Cult of Personality by Living Colour in there, I'm not interested. That amount is just simply absurd from a consumer's standpoint, and I struggle to fathom that any developer could justify that amount of DLC. To me, it's dripping with the intention of targeting the whales and completionists. If that wasn't bad enough, now factor in the game being over 6 years old. Number 7, $7,000 for everything. Train Simulator. Now, since we've talked about ROCKSMITH, we've obviously got to lead directly into the DLC monster that is Train Simulator. Currently titled as 2020, it would appear that every time Train Simulator gets a new release, it brings the older DLCs with it. I say this adamantly because I've seen a Reddit post from 8 years ago which has a similar pricing of $9,000. Thankfully, Dovetail Games seem to have adjusted the price since then, so you can put that extra $2,000 towards, I don't know, buying a car that could physically drive you to the locations you visit within Train Simulator. From my understanding, these DLCs offer trains and locations, though if you scroll through 10 pages or so, all you're going to see are different types of coaches. Looking through Steam threads, I see similar arguments to what I mentioned in the prior entry. For example, if you go to the grocery store, do you buy every single packet of crisps they have? I feel like this analogy misses the mark, and again, I can't help but wonder, who is this targeting? Is this the model railway, Warhammer, figure collecting fanatics? And would there be an issue if the DLC spanning back 8 years was offered at a significantly reduced price, or better yet, bundled into the next year's edition? Number 6, $2.50 Horse Armour, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Okay, enough of the bundles and the collections, let's get down to what we're all here to see. Horse Armour, the story of which is actually quite interesting, if you break it down. Bethesda offered what is now a token feature of almost every multiplayer and some single-player games: cosmetics. However, they implemented it into their game about 10 years too early. Oblivion released in 2006, along with heavy backlash towards Bethesda's genius idea of cosmetic horse armour in a single-player game. All joking aside, is this stunt not a true showing of their corporate intelligence? They were legitimately years in front of anyone else in the industry. I think the important thing to remember though is the time and the place. In 2006, the industry wasn't ready for cosmetics, especially not in a single-player game where only one person could enjoy said purchase. The skin came to around $2.50, a small amount, which is exactly what we tell ourselves when we open 10 loot boxes, one after another. Yet, in the grand scheme of the time period, the context and what's being offered, that $2 might as well have been thievery. Still, it's interesting to think that the seeds of skin packs go so far back. Number 5, $30 skin pack, Gears of War 3. Not quite as far back as 2006, Gears of War 3 launching in 2011 was among the first wave of games to offer cosmetic skins for a sale in-game. It's a shame to see this has been going on for 10 years because Gears did, and still does, its best to squeeze every last penny out of the consumer. This isn't a loot box which the contents can be sold on, nor will it gain value over time. In fact, I see a huge distinction between a skin sold in Gears of War 3 and say CSGO, which being the fact that you really can sell a CS skin on via the Steam marketplace. What are you buying for $30? Every skin released on launch day. I suppose if you plan on playing Gears of War 3 for hundreds of hours, this could be worth it. However, again, let's put this into perspective. The game itself sold for $60. You're now paying half that price for skins, not to mention that there will be more released later on which you won't get. To me, these types of skins are incomparable to those which can be traded or sold on. Maybe it'd be justifiable if they carried over to Gears 4 and 5, but no. There are just as many paid cosmetics in those too. Number 4, $400 Pirate King upgrade, RIMWORLD. RIMWORLD is a sci-fi colony simulator with a focus on management of resources. It's quite difficult to explain in depth, but overall, that's all you need to know. The game was in early access for a good length and gained a very devoted following, going quite back a few years until its official release in 2018. To reward this dedication, and I use finger quotations there because you had to pay a substantial amount of money, developers Ludion Studios offered players an upgrade. I use finger quotations again because this purchase changed nothing in-game. In reality, the Pirate King upgrade acted as a form of donation. You made your purchase, the price of which was actually increased due to the amount of people buying it, and you gave your request. Devoted players were given the opportunity to implement their own characters, lore, and backstories into the game through the main, sole developer at the time. Personally, I don't mind this one too much. It's not DLC in the traditional sense, more a crowdfunding artifact that remained once the game progressed through early access. Indie developers need all the help they can get, and if fans want to support them with an added incentive, why not? Number 3, Core Fighters $70 costume pack, Dead or Alive 5 Last Round. Dead or Alive 5 is a weird one, specifically because it's free to play. When you look at a game that's free to play, whether it's an MMO, a competitive shooter, or a game that's switched to the free to play strategy, there are certain things you can come to expect. Of course, microtransactions or DLCs are one of them. What's the difference? Well, microtransactions are specifically bought in-game, often through a special kind of currency or store, whereas DLC will be bought through the platform's marketplace. Since Dead or Alive 5 Last Round is free, it gets a little bit of leeway. Then you see the $70 costume pack. Sure, there are a lot of characters, there usually are in fighting games. Even more so, it's a competitive game, so you'll be able to show off and flaunt your cute outfits to all those losers you KO. But $70? That's more than the game would cost if it wasn't free to play. It's a hard argument to have, and I suppose it could be had for any of our entries that you don't necessarily need them. In this case, however, it comes back to the idea of targeting whales. People who will justify the purchase by saying, well, the game was free, so why not? Number 2, $150 bundle, City Skylines. Our final variation on the DLC bundle entries is based on City Skylines, not dissimilar from RIMWORLD, but leaning far more towards the city builder tycoon style of game. Skylines filled the hole that SimCity left for us years ago. With every kind of tycoon or yearly simulator, there has to be different pieces of random, almost irrelevant content that can be glued onto various parts of the base game. What's more, these additions can often make the base game feel less accessible, and that is exactly why City Skylines makes our list. It doesn't have to be $5,000 worth of DLC because Skylines isn't as niche or hardcore as that of Train Simulator and ROCKSMITH. Instead, it could be said that Skylines is actually quite casual, a comfy game that many different demographics can get into. Yet, years after launch with tens of DLC packs, you'll become overwhelmed if you look at the store page. Do you want the base game or the beginner's pack, the deluxe edition or the complete bundle? Value for money and an alienation of audience puts City Skylines DLC firmly into our list. However, in defense of the game, if you're patient enough for sales or willing to look around certain third-party sites, you'll be able to grab everything for a steal. Number 1, $70 Pheromone Z, Galgun. Finally, onto the best DLC. Not even just on this list, maybe even the best DLC of all time. Galgun is a weird game where you have to interact with girls. That's not even a euphemism. I genuinely don't know what the player is doing. Sometimes you use your cursor to give them head pats. Sometimes you boop their nose or touch their body. It can also get much more sexually charged than that. As one of the critics' quotes suggests, it's a strange anime game about schoolgirls falling in love with you and your attempts to entertain them all, I think. Now for $70 more you can purchase Pheromone Z. Sounds exciting, huh? Oh, it is. You can actually buy X-ray specs from the Steam store, for a ludicrous sum nonetheless. Now, I don't know who's buying this. If you did buy this, even as a joke, shame on you, you wasteful so-and-so. There are many faucets of lewd content online that are completely free. Regardless, Galgun Double Piece wins the prize for most creative DLC I've ever seen. And that's our list. How do you feel about these overpriced DLCs? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. But for now, I've been Kirsten from WhatCulture Gaming, and I'll see you in the next one.